People come to me and say that I proposed to my wife when we were listening to, Better Be Home Soon or something, and I said, "How's the marriage going?" They go, "Really, really well." I go, "Yes." Every now and again they say, "Oh, I've got another wife now."
Neil Finn, it's so good to see you again.
Nice to be here.
I love the fact that we get to talk semi-regularly when you're ready to put something new out. And, man, at this point in life, I'm just grateful we're still here and able to celebrate you and music,
Me too, yeah. Music just means more and more to me all the time now. It seems pretty special in this world because it's just almost the only thing that just about everybody on the planet agrees on, that music is good.
I agree. I agree, and to me, it's also really important because it's one of the only unobstructed points of view in the modern age.
Exactly, yeah. And it's not curated in terms of people's personal experience with it as well. And that's why people feel they hang on to their collections and so zealously, and the connections they make with other fans and
the memories they're connected to these songs too. I've been seeing this with my mum and her dementia, that the best communication we have is when music is playing.
My mother has unfortunately got quite advanced dementia, and I went to their
I'm sorry.
Care facility the other day, and with my guitar, and played before we left Auckland, and played some songs for them, and man, music just woke that whole room up.
Boom, the eyes open up, and they're in the room
all singing
again,
the words.
and
They don't necessarily know family members, but they know the words to the songs that they learnt when they were kids, and it's actually phenomenal, really. There's some power there that they could tap into yet, and it could power your home at some point.
And yet, when we all start this beautiful journey, into the world of the arts, in particular for you and I, into music, we have no idea what's in store. We have no idea the power of the magic of it. It's all instinct at that point when you're young, isn't it? You're drawn to it, but as you get older, you do understand what the term gravity stairs means and ultimately what it is.
It's such a great mystery that's what keeps me interested in it, really, because I've figured out some stuff, and I've got a better observational ability nowadays about spotting where the potential gold lies, but I still don't know where it comes from or how it happens, just turning up.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man. I mean, the more we go on, the less we know, and the more we give into that, I think. And this album has that real thread running through it. I mean, there is also a sense of self-awareness, and I think a better understanding of one's own purpose. It starts very much that way. I begin to sense my own weight walking up the gravity stairs. This is a powerful opening statement for the album, and a beautiful sense of mortality is laid before us, I feel.
Yeah, just the force of will that should be applied, or you try to apply it every day, and it's not just for music, but for me personally, there is a real set of stairs, the gravity stairs, that we have walked up and down many times. Sometimes late at night after an extended visit to the taverna down below, and they just feel like they've got some kind of extra iron deposit underneath them, where they're doubly hard to climb up. And
especially after a few.
Yeah, especially after a few, but there's this, quite often people playing music at the top, because there's a lovely terrace that we have, and there's bazookies or guitars and stuff, and as you're walking up you hear these little bell tones coming out, and that's what's referred to in the song as well. There's the incentive to get to that elevated space takes more effort as time goes on.
I just love the idea of whoever's up there just jamming away, playing fucking Stairway, sees Neil Finn get to the top. It's like, holy shit, stakes just got higher, didn't they? We better bring out Weather With You real fucking fast.
We've had some parties. We've had some good parties up there and some good guests. But the term got applied to these stairs, and it just always resonated for me, and I thought it was indicative of the force of will of getting out and making music and doing anything worthwhile,
And where does that come from, Neil? Like, at this point in your life and I'm not saying that you're not motivated to continue to live. We all want to make the most of the time we have. I feel the same way. But when it comes to making albums versus when you started, and there's a whole lot of different mechanics pushing you and pulling you, where does the force of will to get up and say to the guys, hey, we should make music right now? Like, do you know where it comes from?
Well, I just think it's the joy of discovery, exploration, and the moment where, often it's when I'm sitting in my room on my own and I've had a little breakthrough on a song I'm working on, and I've got a tape and I'm playing it back to myself at the end of the night, loud, soft. On tape I used to go half speed, double speed, and just revel in that. Something that didn't exist a few hours ago now is a living entity of some sort. It's pretty compulsive. That's where that force of will comes from.
It's such a beautiful moment and time for the band. You've had great triumph. You've been through a real challenge and some tragedy. And I think to get to a point to make an album like this, where you've got, your sons in the band, you and Nick, He's come and gone. You guys are rock solid. It just must feel like a beautiful time to celebrate everything that is Crowded House, but not have to celebrate what was Crowded House, to be contemporary still.
We very much feel like a contemporary band now because we're getting better, and I think the exciting thing about this lineup is that it always, demonstrated potential. Having Liam and Elroy, who'd already gathered quite a lot of their own experience, but also come with quite a lot of their own viewpoints, and they're still developing as musicians. And having Mitchell, who released from his role as a producer, is now a jamming musician, and I have to remind him every now and again that we don't have to decide everything on the first time we're playing a song. He's already divided up the second verse and where it should change, and I'm going, just play the keyboard, Mitch.
We have a producer, Mitch. It's cool.
Just enjoy it. And because when he jams, he's a master. He's got the best instincts and lateral thoughts and everything, and I try not to get him to concentrate too much, But it's just huge potential. We really sense it, and we're starting to jam on stage and trust each other. In a way, that takes a while. You just have to put some hours on the board, and we just becoming a real hot band. And we're going to go this time. We get to put a record out and go straight out and represent. Last time it was a very strange, disconnected thing.
Yeah, but it was probably good in a way looking back on it. Maybe you tell me, to let the boys find their feet in the band from within the family homestead. Quarantine was very tough, and we all know that COVID was a life-changing experience for everybody, from absolute tragedy down to discomfort and anxiety, right? No one escaped it. But there were things about it that ultimately, I think, for better or for worse, allowed everybody to take some time. And do you think having that time on the last album allowed the boys to find their creative space in Crowded House for real without going on the road and it becoming hectic?
It was a dichotomy of COVID was that, and I wouldn't want to be glib about it because some people just had a miserable time. But I did enjoy certain parts of, the being able to dive into music together. We were all in the same area.
Yeah.
We were, visiting each other every day. We were doing little broadcast things on. I had a thing called Fang Radio going, and Liam had a cool sound going in the studio. So we were really developing quite a lot, as you say, which we might not have had the chance. On the road, you do get the gigs, obviously, but there's something about sort of squirreling away in your own space.
Well, when you're on the road and you're trying to fit into a band, even if it's a band that, is kind of founded by your dad, and so no one knows each other better than family, but still, I think that when people join a band and they don't get a chance to have unbridled creative experience in an enclosed environment, and there's more of that road time, you still feel a bit like a hired hand for a while. It's hard not to feel like, am I just a touring member here, even though I'm in the band? Like, psychology is interesting, right?
And it's particularly complex because of family dynamic as well. To get over that feeling that I'm in Dad's band, or I got my two sons there. That was a very valuable time, as you say, because we were really getting in detail into arrangements for songs and helping each other finish songs, which we may not have done had the touring thing started. I don't generally write very much on tour. I get little ideas, but it's hard to see through things, and we were able to do that in all of that, undistracted time. So yeah, I think you're right. We became tighter musically, and we sort of got over the hump of it being a family band. We walk into rehearsal now and I really don't think about everybody's contributing, everybody's putting ideas forward. So yeah, there's obviously every family has occasional time where there's a long hard stare that hits you right in the stomach, but it doesn't happen too often.
I wonder whether or not there was moments for you where you had to redirect your reaction or your instinct to respond to suggestions, ideas, or everyone has something that in any community environment where if they really believe in it, they're going to take the pass out of their pocket. And they're like, no, every part of my instinct is telling me we need to try this, or we don't do this. And I'm sure it's been really valuable for you to sort of take your hands off the wheel, even in that environment, more than with people that aren't necessarily family, where it's like, all right,
Yeah, no, it's tremendous to have that kind of support, and it's a deep knowledge and understanding that they have because they grew up with it. And Mitchell too, he was there at the very beginning of Crowded House. So, and Nick, I trust everyone's viewpoint. I mean, we don't always agree, but it's incredibly valuable to know what they're thinking. And that's what bands should be about, really. And I'm forthright with my opinions, and in a way, because most of the songs are mine, I'll make some of the calls, in the end. But it was amazing because we were on this record. We were sending files to each other from different points of the globe to finish, and I was with our producer and engineer Stephen at home, kind of doing the finishing touches to the record, and a lot of things were changing at that point, and the guys were sort of scratching their heads on a few occasions, but we, I think, got really obsessed with allowing everybody's viewpoint right at the end. So the numbers of remixes being done, Mitchell would say, I don't understand what you've done in the second verse. That part doesn't seem to work so well now. So Stephen would go in and fix that, send it back. And, there was a real inclusiveness of it, and nobody lost touch with the record. I didn't run away with it. And,
Yeah.
So somehow that relationship was preserved, and everyone feels now very connected to every decision on the record.
You can hear it in the playing? You can hear it in
so.
the right. Oh, you can for sure. I hear a band. There are times when I've heard you step out in front of Crowded House a little bit more, just as a fan of the band, and I really hear a band playing right from the beginning. Let's talk about this album, Gravity Stairs. It 100% deserves a deep dive. It's a stunning 11-song Crowded House record. It's interesting, but never trying too hard to be interesting. It's very naturally interesting the way you've taken the songs and the production. I mean, even a song like Magic Piano, which starts the album, to me is like just a beautiful, wonderful, unbridled kind of psychedelic little journey into the inner workings of a human being. At the end of it, you're like, wow, I think I know this person. A little bit.
Can you explain who he is to me, please?
Yeah, because that's what I'm saying. I'm not sure I know him, but I like him.
Yeah. Well, I'm really very fond of that song, and it deserves its place at the top of the album because it was the first song we recorded. And for some reason, we decided to dig in. We were in Byron Bay, about to start an Australian tour, and we went in for an exploratory session in a little studio called Music Farm up there. We didn't really know or have expectations we would necessarily get much. And for some unknown reason, we delved into one of the more complex songs of my demos. It took us 2 days to learn.
Yeah.
But it enabled Stephen to get a really, really good sound on the floor because we had all this practice time. And we just really enjoyed getting around. It sort of became this big, sprawling, jammy kind of sound, especially at the end. And we sort of discovered a new way of playing in the midst of it somehow.
In what way?
Nick's bass got super sort of floral, but in a cool way. And Liam so they were doing little dance, guitar and bass together. And what you hear on that track, apart from the vocals, which I redid, is pretty much the band playing on the floor with a couple of small additions. But it sounds like quite a sophisticated arrangement, but that's the sound of the band.
That's cool. What a great way to start a record. What a
we were
confident
excited.
step.
We were excited when we heard it back. It just was there was a little bit of magic to lead us on, and the other songs weren't as complicated. But it gave us great incentive.
But they live beautifully in the shadow of that song. It's not like, oh, that's a standout, interesting arrangement and production experiment, and now we're going to go into a rock solid Crowded House record. It's like I feel the album does actually bask in the shadow or the shade of Magic Piano all the way through.
Well, I would agree. I think that it set the tone for the record, and people have said that there's a dreamy, sort of semi-psychedelic atmosphere that runs through the record. It's not something we ever discussed, but it was something that was kind of laid out by that first track a little bit. And so we were excited about having layers and atmospheres through the record. There's a song like Blackwater, White Circle.
I love that song.
A really dreamy. We are becoming more interested in layers and textures. Mitchell is brilliant in that regard. He'll lay out for longer than you would expect him to, and all of a sudden a little sound will pop out. It just gives that extra dimension to the listening experience.
There's also some of the most direct and brilliant pop moments I've heard from you in a while. Teenage Summer's just an outright smasher, and Lady Hawk helping you out with some background vocals, which is cool. And it's hard to explain what this song means to me, but you will get it. Someone said to me in an interview yesterday, "What do you miss about New Zealand?" And because I haven't lived there for like a long time, and I said, I miss New Zealanders' ability to be able to somehow take the entire summer off, or at least the feeling that you can take 2 months off in the middle of the summer and not really do the job you do normally to the same degree, and just extend this. It's like we sort of check out.
It's annoying sometimes when you need to get, need a doctor's visit in late December or early January, forget about it.
Forget about it.
Don't get sick at that time of the year.
I'm really only working Tuesdays and Wednesdays till mid-February. You know what I mean? It's kind of hilarious. And I feel like we've always, when I was growing up, everything centered around the summer. Because this is also a little known fact about New Zealand is for the rest of the year, it can be really fucking miserable and unpredictable and grumpy.
Yeah, and people get pretty down on things in the winter. Yeah,
a lot of rain. We're not built for it. It gets cold. We don't really have. We'll probably do now. But when I was growing up, it was like still radiator heaters, hangover of that Commonwealth British approach to dealing with fucking cold. And I'm like, what is this?
And no houses are even insulated.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, they
pink bats ain't going to do it.
they're getting onto it now. But yeah, some of those houses, they're really cold.
You're really cold, right? So we would all hang out for the summer. I've got a point here. We'd all hang out for the summer, and summer would happen. Then you get these advertisements for whatever the fucking ice cream is. Where there's Rachel Hunter fucking in the back of a the back of a V-dub, to the eternal sunshine of the 3-month summer. And you've made a song that it was like I was in a DeLorean experience and just like back to my youth.
That's nice. Yeah.
You smashed it. I mean, can you tell us a story about making that? Because it really is that sound of New Zealand summer to me.
It has conjured up some nostalgia for a few people I've talked to about it, actually. And I, which I'm not normally, don't like bathing in nostalgia, but it is good. It's to have a bit of yearning. And it's more about an attitude, really, anyway, than, thinking, I wish I was back there. It's about...
It ain't Boys of Summer.
It's a slightly New Zealand
version of Boys
of Summer. Yeah, I don't mention Ray-Bans. I think the song grew from a really strange... If you heard the very first demo of that song, you'd recognize a tiny piece of it, but it actually evolved quite a lot, and it had a series of really good strokes of fortune, a little sound that popped out, which I found on the Mellotron near the end, that actually really powered that sense of, anticipation that summer has, and what you were referring to, the excitement of the last day of school, I remember still, and the smell of summer and the cut grass and all those things that make
the first day of summer is always, it never gets better than that first day when you get out of school. Everything just starts to slow decline over 2 months until you go back. But that first
the slight
day
melancholy sets in sort of towards the end of the holidays. But yeah. But it's the same. Look, I think it's the same in a lot of places. The English, when you go to England or Scotland and after that desperately long winter there, you get that first, and everyone lies on the grass. There's a kind of a feeling of, and soaks the first rays and get totally sunburnt and pain for 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's totally
but New Zealand is a little bit more aware of the sun and not, putting on the old sunscreen, though.
I remember my friends used to go back when they had like more flexible job opportunities. They would, and not before kids, would go back for like 3 months. I'd be stuck in the UK working at the fucking BBC. I'd get like 1 week summer break, I mean? And
it's no wonder. I really felt sorry for the people in the UK, particularly during the lockdown, because when pubs went out, I mean, they rely so heavily on that whole cosy pub sort of...
It became a stoop party. I know a lot of people that would you would find a way to kind of come together, and it was always on a stoop. And everyone just if you had a little stoop outside or a little seat or a little something or a wall, it became a little neighborhood thing. But you're right, it was very tough. It was very tough.
That's a big, important part of getting through the winter over there. But
I remember in New Zealand when COVID first hit, and it wasn't the biggest uproar when they closed McDonald's, there was like a huge uproar in Auckland because they'd closed a McDonald's.
I was cheering.
I bet you were. I just remember my dad sending me a news report that was like, fury as Auckland closes McDonald's.
Yeah, well, the front page of the Herald is sometimes pretty funny, like what people get upset about over there.
Yeah.
And when you think of the state of the world, it's kind of reassuring in a way that it's still pretty normal over there to have, like there was front page news when Sam Hunt's dog died years ago, Minstrel dies, and that was actually quite a sweet moment, but where else in the world would a poet's dog die and it becomes front page news,
Yeah, I think it's beautiful.
It was beautiful, yeah. And Sam's still going.
Still going.
There, yeah.
Amazing.
I mean, New Zealand has poetry as part of its, certainly back in the day, they had poetry as part of its, normal life, which I thought was pretty cool as well.
Very much.
I don't know if it's like that quite so much now, but
I just always remember that these people who would express themselves were such characters. I remember, now when I've traveled, I've seen the idea of poetry. It can be such a tasteful experience in a small club with low light and and the words are amazing and you're enthralled and then you leave. These were characters. These were people you felt
Sam,
were literally roaming the countryside 365 days a year, just kind of searching for a willing audience, 1 or 100.
James K. Baxter in his bare feet wandering the country with this big beard. And I don't know. I think that set New Zealand is a very conservative country, but in amongst it, you can be eccentric like no other place. You know,
Very true. It's very true.
The outsiders are always really interesting down there, but yeah, and it's a hard winter, and it's a lovely time when that summer comes around.
Yeah, it really is. So working with the boys, getting back to Liam and Elroy, who have obviously, like everybody in the band, but some really strong songwriting credits on here. Liam in particular, I think, wrote a full one. Was it The Howl or was it The Howl? Yeah,
we just made a video for that actually. It's,
great.
Coming out, and yeah, it was a song that I picked up off that little Pro Tools selection he lent me, and he's done it as well. He's done a collection of songs himself. He was off to the side. It's on his record as well in a slightly different state, but we grabbed it and made it a Crowded House song, and it's just got an atmosphere that is different again, and it's opened up a new pathway for us to follow.
It must be nice as well when you hear a song and you go, that is a Crowded House song and I didn't have to write it, and so I get to play it and be a fan of it, and it sits in our collection as a band, our legacy of a band, but it's not a Neil Finn copyright.
Yeah, I mean, bring it on. I'm looking forward to the day when they're all when we make the next record, which I'm sure we will next. I think we're going to spend 6 weeks in one continuous burst and do it the old-fashioned way, because I really enjoy the dynamic and they should bring their best stuff forward, Elroy and Liam, and I would look forward to expanding our horizons that way, because that's what's exciting about bands, when you feel like every record is a new discovery. I'm not I'm restless in that regard. I don't like, I'm trying not to repeat. I mean, there's always things that you keep going back to because they tickle some nerve that you like having tickled. But generally speaking, and that's where now the possibilities are endless with these other writers. And
has that been a process of growth for you? Because if I may present what I would think, if there's any kind of misconception about who you've been as a writer throughout your career from real fans who read the books and read the articles and hear the stories, is that you had a singular vision in what you wanted to write and how you wanted the songs to come out. There was a determination in your process that was very valid, but also a strong opinions you kind of hinted at before. Have you gotten better at kind of letting go, or did we miss the point all the way through? Were you always like that?
I would like to be.
Do you know how fucking much courage I had to fucking ask that question? I've known Neil Finn for like 40 years. He's like one of my biggest heroes, and I finally asked the question I've been wanting to ask him for 30 years. I'm fucking proud of myself.
Do you let anybody else into your process, basically? Yeah.
Well, I know you do now, but
Well, no, but it isn't easy. Like I do have a singular idea. Well, actually, I don't really know what I'm doing. I preface it by saying that most of the best people don't really know what they're doing. They're kind of making it up and relying on instincts and making judgments all the time, playing like a child and, editing like an adult is as much as you can explain, really. And I keep things in a fluid state for as long as I can as well. And in the hope that they'll drop in a really nice order. At some point they'll fall to the ground and it'll be in the right order and everything will start working. But the great thing about having... And I am letting people in more in this environment than I have done ever before, probably. But certainly Liam and all of the band actually are at key moments able to inject their views, and it really helps me not to create something that's got no cracks. Because when you make something yourself, you usually cover up all the cracks and any flaws. Yeah. You don't want people to see them.
Become flaw adverse,
But you don't have that choice when somebody else plays on your track. It's the way they play is, opening up a little bit of light. So I think that it's a far more interesting, more textured, more dimensional being the song after everyone's had their go.
Yeah.
So I'm learning it improves. Yeah. And I'll come in if I don't like something and say no. I reserve the right.
Yeah, I mean, I can only change so many spots. You know what I mean? At the end of the day,
that's right.
I'll still rip your face off with my claws if I need to. I mean,
yeah, no, kind of. You have to be ruthless at times with music. You have to, slap it around a little bit, and there's a bit of skullduggery and a bit of bluff goes on as well with every song.
Okay, we can talk about this now because Tim shows up on one of the most beautiful songs on the album, right smack dab in the middle. I mean, it's either the end of side one or the start of side two, but it holds its place by design there, called Some Greater Plan for Claire. And so before we get into that song, let's just talk about the dynamic between the two of you. And this is for Split Enz fans and Crowded House fans and Finn Brothers fans. Does that say a lot about why you two choose to collaborate at various moments in time, because you work very differently? Has he got a different approach to you?
I think we do have different approaches, and they're quite compatible when we get together. And we probably should do it more often.
Why don't you?
I don't know. Just life just goes on, and you get involved in things. And
I feel like you've teased us on and off throughout your whole lives. It's like he's in the band, he's moved on, he's doing his other thing, and it's never you break up. He just comes and goes.
yeah, and we'll do something again soon. I think we've talked about it.
Like a Venn
We've
Brothers
got plans. We have that song was actually a hangover from a musical that we were attempting to write, and the lyrics were completely different. But we rewrote it after Tim reminded me of my dad's war diaries and a particular story where he wandered into a ballroom in Florence, the Baglioni Ballroom, after a night out in the Lash with his mates towards the end of the war, and spied this glamorous-looking girl across the other side who he wrote in his diary, which he was way out of my league, but I thought I'd ask her to dance, and she said yes. And they had a glorious 2-week romance at the end of the war in Florence, and it was a thing growing up. It was like Dad's, wistful other side, the other to his nature, and every now and again at a restaurant he'd speak to the Italian waitress, in Italian, the 5 words he knew in Italian, and Mum would roll her eyes and go, I suppose that's what Nada used to say, was it? Because that was the girl's name, Nada. This is a great account in his diary. So that began the song. The first verse is very much in that Baglioni Ballroom, and then it's a more universal song. Tim and I wrote it together, so obviously having him sing it with me was a no-brainer, and was a beautiful little session. Got it very easily, and
it's a beautiful song, and I think also the band has brought it to life in a wonderful way. It feels almost like a distant relation to Magic Piano in a sense. It takes you back to a more kind of a grander approach to arrangement and sound, I think.
Well, it was recorded in the same session in Byron Bay, and so it did have some of that atmosphere for sure. And I think it may have been a first take, because we sort of messed around, talked about it. Sometimes you don't, but that was a very simple song. So we went, okay, yeah, this is easy. That's a simple song to learn. So Nick wrote the chords out. He never normally does. Wrote the chords out, and I think we got that first take. So that was a really nice. It's always a good one to get.
Do you think about if Split Enz ever goes again, or how you feel about the last time that the band came together in order to honor what you've achieved and do it for fans and make it? Did it feel like, okay, we're good? Like I can make peace with this now?
There's various things happening with Split Enz at the moment, which I'm really happy about. We've finally found somebody that has got the energy and the vibe to sort of organise our affairs, because it's been languishing. We've no manager for years, and there's weird records that are not available in some countries and other countries. And,
I know, because I search for them.
Yeah, the only record that for a while it was depressing. I would go into a record store in the US and find best of that we hadn't approved, but it was just, it had all the hit songs on it, but had the worst cover, like one of the worst photos of us that you could possibly imagine. And it was really, really depressing. I think the records now, because of streaming, they're probably mostly available, but it's been ignored and sort of left to languish a little. And this guy is really helping. So there'll be various releases happening and some supporting material. And the band are talking quite a lot. So who knows, something might even happen.
Wow.
In the next year. I think it should. It's like 50 years.
The thing is, they are still fucking wonderfully weird records. Amazingly strange. I don't think there's one straight down the line pop smasher. Maybe even one step ahead is fucking weird. It's just you couldn't help yourselves. You'd take us to the top of the pop mountain, and then you'd slide down, and it would get all super fucking dark clown.
Well, that was comparatively straight when you listen to the early stuff. Which I have been quite a lot lately. The Mental Notes and the Beginning of the Ends have just the most amazing songs on them, and they sound really good. They were well recorded, and it kind of blows my mind. They did the New Faces in New Zealand, one of those early, I guess it's like X Factor in 1972, I think, 73.
It was called New Faces?
They only came fifth in the final. I think Phil Warren said they were too clever.
He was right.
But those songs, they're so sophisticated. We played them through, actually a few of us got together and played them through, and it was a real joy for me to play those songs. I only ever listened to them. But I was a devotee to that band. They were my greatest influence, so before I even joined. And
I remember the story so famous. I mean, you came in as, you 17, I think?
I was 18 when I joined the band. I was a hospital orderly, and Tim rang me in Auckland. I actually rang Mum first to see if it was all right if I could join.
The sweetest thing ever.
And Mum said, okay. Rang me. I think she rang me and said, oh, Tim, your brother rang, and he wants you to join the band. And So I was in London 3 days later. It was pretty exciting.
What was the first song you wrote for them? Can you remember?
The first song I wrote with Tim was "I'll Give It a Whirl"
Yeah.
for the band.
Yeah.
And I had been writing a few bits and pieces. And I lived with Noel, and we just at Chorley Wood, just out of London, and we were on the bones of our ass, actually, eating apple crumble morning, noon, and night for a few days.
Yeah, I've been there.
But having some quite wild psychedelic moments out there, and got some really good songs written in that environment. Became a songwriter there, really.
What was the song that you brought to the band when you saw in them that they recognize now that they had a real songwriting force in the band? Do you remember the one that they were just like, holy shit?
Well, I mean, Give It a Whirl probably was the revelation because it immediately sounded good, and it was a completely different kind of song, similar to the way that Liam's songs and Elroy's stuff has informed a new angle for the band.
Yeah.
I think they understood that there was a new angle emerging there. And, I mean, actually, when I Got You came along, even though I'd written a few by then,
yeah, that was what was on my mind.
we did rehearsal with David Tickle, and when I wrote it, I thought the chorus was like, yeah, that's sort of what the chorus should be like, but I'll have to do something better than that because it's just corny or something. And
because it does have like a, I don't know why sometimes
exactly.
I get...
I thought it has to be sort of like that, but that's just, I like the verse, and I thought
the
that's
verse
cool.
is fucking dark.
It's sneaky.
This song is like one of the most Jekyll and Hyde pop songs you'll ever hear. The start is just like, it's like, I got you. It's fucking creepy. And then it gets into the chorus and it's just like, woo! It's the fucking, it opens up. It's amazing. It's like,
But then when the band played it, we all sat up, and because they must have made the chorus sound so good, it was undeniable. I can't believe that I actually thought it needed to be changed. And I think we played it in the Playroom in the Gold Coast, and as we went out before we recorded it, and Tim related this to me later. He went out the front and listened to it, and he kind of had one of those
whoa,
chills up the spine moments. Going, God, that's something really powerful about.
It still is.
It signaled a new phase for the band, but and the whole album reflected it. Things like Poor Boy and that.
Yeah. I just remember I put it on a playlist the other day because I was searching around for a particular type of song to do a particular type of thing, and I was like, oh, that's going to work brilliantly. And I listened to it again, and I listen to Split Ends all the time. I mean, I listen to Crowd House all the time. I listen to a lot of New Zealand music. That's something that's really happened in the last 10, 15 years for me, as I've rediscovered a lot of albums I loved as a kid from New Zealand. And it reminds me just not only how great the art is, but to your point, how eccentric we are down there at writing. And I put that song on, and especially when it goes into the, like, I suppose what you'd call the bridge, where it's just like dun, 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 dun,
it's a strange bridge. It really is.
Dun, 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 dun. Where am I going here? I got you. It's just so weird, but you were enormously successful and got to still be weird. Very few people, and what's fucking crazy too. And then we'll get back to the album because we're halfway through that. But what's crazy for me too is now I've gotten to know Eddie Vedder relatively well. I'm getting to know him better, finally, and love that band. And you probably will pull up from making this observation, or maybe you've got enough self-awareness now to hear it. The level of influence, not just of your songwriting on him, but also in particular Split Ends on some of those Pearl Jam records now. I just hear it. I hear it.
It's probably not for me to comment about that, but I know he was a very passionate Split Ends fan, and he came to see us. We came to see Crowded House play early on our first tour, I think, when he was just working at a hotel in
San Diego
as a night janitor, I think, in San Diego. Yeah. In fact, I was really sick when he came, so I didn't really get to hang out with him. But Nick hung out with him, and he came on the bus, actually, and said hi. And
crazy.
Yeah.
So this is even probably before he was in Pearl Jam?
Before. No, he hadn't gone to
But he made his way
audition.
onto the bus. This is a fascinating story because it shows that Eddie, for all of his incredible balance of shyness and wonderful charisma, still, without even being in Pearl Jam, made his fucking way onto the bus.
He's a real fan of music. In fact, if he's a fan of anything, he gets into it big time. Baseball, basketball, and bands. So the Who, his whole house, his whole corner of his house is a shrine to the Who. And that's a level of fandom, respect and fan worship for things that's quite remarkable. And it and he's genuine with it, and he's a really wonderful close friend now, so it's been a good relationship.
This album, man, Gravity Stairs, I told you when I saw you for the first time in a long time today, straight away, how much of a fan of this record I am. I agree with you. I feel that it opens a whole new era for the band. It doesn't feel like an extension of what's come before. I almost feel like all roads led to this moment, and now this is your latest 0.0, whatever fucking, you know what I mean? It's like you're at 4.0 now. This is a whole new thing.
I mean, I'm excited to hear you say so, and I've had really strong reactions from quite a few people who I respect, so... we knew it was good when you're making it, but you never know. You don't know whether it's going to connect with people, but we get the sense that it is connecting already, and we know it'll be an amazing record to play live. We've already learnt some of the songs, and they're just sort of bouncing around the stage with them. So
I think of Blow Grass, and I think of like that is a sound to me within Crowded House that I haven't heard before, where it's got elements of like the sort of subs and the kick and the clap and everything, and the guitar is very fucking beautiful and cool, but it doesn't do what I normally expect a Crowded House song to do. It finds a new space to exist.
Well, it's Elroy's music, and I mean, it's very much his song. Actually, I helped him on a few of the details of it, but he came out with a demo, and we sort of worked on the demo because it had certain bits of atmosphere, and you would know well yourself that sometimes the magic of a demo is really hard to recreate if you just start from scratch.
Yeah.
So modern times mean you can actually much more easily integrate those little magic things on demos, and so we chased that thing, and then we added it, we made it bigger, we moved a few things around, and created a vocal that, and a lyric and stuff. So, but it was very much Elroy's, and that's what we were talking about before. He's now added another shade. He is a different thing than Liam going on. It's a little, Liam's stuff is more well known to people within the community because he's been releasing stuff, but Elroy's the quiet achiever, and he's got amazing skills as an arranger, and he plays a beautiful nylon string guitar. He has a little project with a friend, Joel Mulholland, and they write these little guitar suites, acoustic guitar suites. Which there's a record out called Pablo Vasquez, and I would recommend it.
Thank you. I will listen to it.
It's beautiful dinner. He's happy to call it dinner music,
which I love. By the way,
they're delighted to have people listen to it over dinner.
Oh, I've just all the things that I mocked as a child. I'm in love with right now. I'm happy. I like ambient music, which I was like, who wants to listen to fucking Tone? I'm like obsessed with Tone. I just listen to Tone all the time.
Well, this is a glorious. It's a glorious dinner music piece, and also lovely for going to sleep too, because it's very calming.
Man, this is the dream, Neil. I mean, for everything that you've achieved in your life, to be able to go out on the road and share these memories and experiences with your family, and let them build their experiences too, not live in the wake of yours and be younger, the young kids on the road. That's one way of doing it, but this is a whole other thing.
I want them to have a stake in it, and it only seemed worthy because it's a nice idea on paper to hang out with your family and be a family band, but I can't think of anyone in the world I'd rather play music with, and I want them to have...
I had to drop a bomb on that. It's too good. That's a great statement. I mean, that's love. That's life.
Yeah, and I think they're starting to feel the same way. But I want them to feel like they've got a stake in the band as well, and that's why getting their material on the album and it earning its place. There's nothing token about their presence. Is giving them a stake in it, and I think that's going to develop more and more.
There's only one other element on this album, aside from the people who made it, the family and yourself, that really comes through for me. And I think you'll take this in the spirit in which it's intended, which is complimentary, because the artwork suggests it to some degree as well. I feel like you've gotten to a place now where that influence that the Beatles have always had on you as a writer, and you've been very open about that, is starting to kind of come through in a really lovely, even maybe subconscious way. Some of the arrangements, some of the instrumentation, I don't know if the artwork is directly connected to,
It's a homage. Yeah,
it's a homage.
Nick would accept that when he was a teenager. The album cover, and for those who haven't seen it, is a pen and ink kind of drawing of us, with various little other pictorial elements. I'm in a boat, or there's a person in a boat in my hair, and but it was definitely a homage to the Revolver album cover by Klaus Forman, which Nick fell in love with as a teenager when he started to do art and draw. He was obsessed with pen and ink drawings, and he thought that cover was so I think he probably sat around and copied it. So it's he's openly admits that it's a nice homage to that, and it's not so much to suggest that we are bowing down to our influences too much, but I think they're always going to be there. I'm not self-conscious at all about it. I having seen the Get Back films, it just redirected my love for that band, into a place that you could relate to. Like after all that amazing music they gifted us, then to gift us that after this long,
I know.
this glimpse inside what it was like to be in the Beatles and to make it relatable, because it was, as they had scaled the heights by that point, but I watched them and the dynamic of it just felt like a band.
So okay, so I got to take on that. I got to take on Get Back on the real reason why the Beatles couldn't get it to keep it together, right? But I want to know, did you get a takeaway from that in particular on the dynamic and why it kind of separated?
Why it didn't last much longer after that? You mean?
Yeah.
Well, I think if it hadn't been for McCartney, it may not have lasted even that long, because he was obviously driving it, yeah, and it annoyed the shit out of them at times. You could sort of see it, and he knew he was annoying them. He openly says it, but his energy and dynamism was just extraordinary.
Well, he was on such a tear at that point,
and the talent just just oozing out of him.
I mean, what was he playing at the piano? He was writing at the piano. Was it Long and Winding Road? And he's trying to figure it out at the piano during downtime.
Yeah.
And there's people from Apple Corps just sitting there reading the sports papers, like looking at Tottenham Hotspur win against West Ham 3-0, and they're not even looking at him. He's like, Long and Winding Road.
No, they would have been on their iPhones now.
Totally. Which is just crazy to me. And that's when it dawned on me. And my take's a little more pretty direct. I think McCartney just was on such a songwriting wave.
Yeah.
And John was like, well, I'm in love. And this is my thing now, and I'm obsessed with this relationship. So I don't really have much going on beyond that. And George is like, well, I'll step in where John was, but Paul's like, but I want John to show up.
Yeah.
And Ringo's like, can we not all just get this shit together?
Yeah. Ringo was so lovable. He's so lovable in that film, and obviously was just so consistent and solid.
And stoned. So stoned.
Oh, yeah. But they didn't actually. Did they show any joint smoking?
I don't think so. But tell me, he wasn't the most fucking baked human being on the planet.
Yeah, I think they all were.
Yeah.
But yeah, they didn't. That was the one thing they didn't reveal directly. Anyway,
yeah.
It was just beautiful to watch. I got to watch some of it in Wellington, because we were touring at the time when Peter was putting it together, and he invited us in to have a little sneak listen. And look, when they were in early stages, and in a way, it was more extraordinary because you could actually you could hear all the mistakes, and there was only one Nagra, and it didn't sound. What they did with the sound on that was extraordinary.
Unbelievable.
But it was. We watched 6 hours of it.
Wow.
And
you must have been emotional at the end of that.
I felt very emotional. Yeah, especially that scene where they were just finished playing on the roof, and they were listening back, and it was just such a beautiful moment of brotherhood, and with all the women, their wives there as well. That was a glorious moment, I think, that they got to enjoy. They probably hadn't really got to enjoy themselves to that manner for a long time, it seemed.
You summed it up beautifully when you said it was a gift for us all, because in the absence of any kind of clarity, we've all built our own ideas as to what happened and why they didn't continue. And I think it's all right there, I think, for us to sort of draw minor discrepancies in our sort of viewpoint, but it's kind of the same story. They just drifted apart, and Paul was ready to go, and George was ready to go, and it was like,
It was pretty raw in places, which is, like I said, that's the gift, really, because people are trying to curate their view and their, especially these days, it's like a curated reality that people are getting.
It is.
And they were, to some extent, I mean, no film is going to completely reveal everything, but that one got pretty close, I think.
So the tour, it's there, man. I'm seeing the dates right in front of you, and you've always loved to play live. I mean, it's a huge. Even when you're not touring, you've always had great reasons to put on awesome benefit shows or pull lots of musicians in together. The Worlds Collide shows, and it's like. I think it must be nice to think that you're going to be able to go out there and add this new album to what you've already established. And I wonder how you're going to sort of make it make sense to the catalog, because it is like such a fresh sounding Crowded House experience.
Well, we already know it's going to sound great on stage, and it's going to be easy to play on stage. So it's going to be difficult to write a set list, because there's a lot of albums now.
Well, we figured out number one. I can't keep up with you. Me and Mitchell figured that one out for you.
That could become a starter. There's
watch closely as you
already.
See Neil Finn's singular vision start to get in the way of this idea and tell us, no, that's a terrible fucking idea. We're not going to do.
Well, we'll see. It is funny you said that, though, because Mitchell was really big on that idea. Yeah, we've got to start. He thought we should start the album with it, so that didn't happen.
There's 3 elements as to why. You've got an incredible psychedelic thing which you can lean into for 5 minutes if you want. And I think we're long, beautiful, slow building, psychedelic, wonderful things that allow lights to build and anticipation to build and take the lights down ever so slowly and make a mood. And then and then you come on in the dark, it's great. And then you do the magic thing. You get to open the song with your voice. And we're off.
Well,
1, 2, 3.
You're selling it pretty well here, I got to say.
That's what I do, mate.
It's gathering steam as an idea.
That's what I do.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
Yeah, please
First
do.
gig.
Please do.
Yeah.
But then where do you go from there? Because you've got so many songs that people will want to hear, and they'll be thrilled there's a new album, and they will love every song on this album. But you must be at a point now where you've got to think about leaving things off, or are you just going to keep going?
We won't play for more than 2 hours. Sharon, my wife, will not let us. She says, no. I mean, this is going to be apologies to a lot of really great artists, but no one's good after 2 hours. We went to see Prince play, God love him, and at the Country Club after one of the MTV Awards we went to years ago, and it was incredible. And Sheila E. was there, and it was just,
It was one of
he
those
was on
Prince
fire.
shows.
It started at 1 in the morning, I think.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
We made it to 4, and he was still going. It didn't look like he was going to stop anytime soon, but we had to go.
I went to, I think, probably the last full Prince show that he played.
Yeah.
It was in London at Coco, beginning of 2015. And he started with Purple Rain and was like, I'm going to play 20 hits, and then I'm going to come back, play some more hits, and then maybe a few more hits, and I'm just going to keep playing. And we were like, okay. And the set list is just bonkers, right?
Yeah.
He's just going off. And same thing, after about 3 hours, he was like, let's just jam it out. And me and my wife were like, we got to go.
Yeah. I know.
So
I mean, there's only so much.
I'm in that club as well. It's not a particularly respectful or respected club.
I felt guilty going out. I sort of picked my moment.
What kind of assholes are we to leave a Prince show early? What's wrong
I had
with
good
us?
seats too, and they're prominent.
Dude,
that was hard to get out
I
without
was at
being
the front.
noticed.
They were giving us free drinks. What the fuck is wrong with us?
I think Sharon and I left separately, so that it looked like we were going to the bathroom.
Hey, you did the fucking Kiwi exit.
Yeah, but so it'll be a 2-hour show. Maybe you'll sneak over every now and again, and a 2:10 or something.
Yeah.
It escapes her notice if I just bring it in under 2:15. It is hard now because there's a lot of songs we want to do. We don't want to just do. Thankfully, I really like all the songs that became popular. I don't have any problem playing them, but there's songs that have become popular with the audience that weren't singles and that weren't hits.
Yeah.
You want to cover those, and there's a few obscurities that we really enjoy playing. So how to fit all that in on one set, I don't know. I'm going to have to go home and write that.
I'm sure there's a lot, but there's the one that particularly catches you off guard at times because even for you, it strikes a chord. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, whenever I hear Fall at Your Feet, I'm done. Like, I'm fucking done. There's probably half a dozen songs in my life that doesn't matter if I could be at a barbecue in my board shorts, 6 beers down, having the fucking greatest time ever, and Fall at Your Feet comes on, and I got to leave the fucking room, right, for a few minutes.
Good. We want you to weep.
Is there one like that for you that really catches you off guard to some degree when you play it, or has done historically?
Well, I really enjoy singing that song, so I'm really happy it resonates for you because it's one of the ones that's the most enduring for me, and I have become emotional singing that song because sometimes I look out and see people having a little cry, and it makes me, it affects me,
The finger of blame.
Yeah.
When you go into that thing, and I'm getting goosebumps now. Shit, I might even get a little emotional just talking about it. I mean, it's. Do you want my presence or need my help? I mean, there's something. Fuck, man. That if you talk about Gravity's Staircase, you talk about the magic piano, you talk about the spiritual space where music exists, within which we are just a vessel in order to tap in or tap out. That must have been a pure moment, a very pure moment for you when that song came, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I hunted for the chorus, for the verse of it for a couple of years. The chorus was there first. And,
wow.
In the end, the verse became, I tried 3 or 4 different verses. In the end, the verse became something I'd written when I was about 17 years old, before I even joined bands. And Mitchell spotted it in the studio, and, it was a voila kind of moment, eureka moment. We recorded it all the same day that we made that discovery and finished the lyrics, and it was a beautiful instant turnaround. And yeah, we knew we had something with that one. You don't always know, but that one we thought, yeah, that's got some.
I just think Together Alone
some weight.
is one of the most flawless bodies of songs in my lifetime.
Well, thank you. You're very kind.
I listen to that album still to this day, an enormous amount at home, and just put it on and all the way through. It's just like, fuck, man, it's crazy. I am very, very happy to see you. And I'm so grateful that, you came to the West Coast to do a bit of press, and that you made us, you put us on your list, and you still come through and say hi. And I tell the story, and it probably bores you to death now, but I'm still forever grateful for, your support and advice for me when I was a young man trying to figure out what I should do with my life. And you were there at a really important moment when I was really on the edge of what I should do. Should I stay in New Zealand? Should I go traveling? What should I do? And you gave me the greatest piece of advice. And I'm always going to be forever grateful for that.
Oh, well, I'm glad it worked out. People come to me and say that I proposed to my wife when we were listening to, Better Be Home Soon or something. And I said, how's the marriage going? And they go, really, really well. I go, yes. Every now and again they say, oh, I've got another wife now. So I'm pleased that bit of advice worked, because you just don't know, But
Well,
you've made your own luck, Zane. You've carved out a great place in the world. So
thanks, man.
And you've made a lot of people happy.
Thanks, man. Well, I'm here because of the music, and you continue to surprise and delight, mate. I'm just going to say it again for everyone who's listening and has got through the end of this podcast and this conversation, that this new Crowded House album is all time. Bands who have been around this long, by rights, just through the nature of evolution, should not be pushing themselves into territory this raw and this innovative and this interesting and writing songs this good. So I don't know what you're fucking drinking, but keep drinking it.
Phew.
Keep
okay,
drinking
well,
it.
thanks, man.
Keep drinking it, bro.
I appreciate your huge endorsement. Thank you.